Okay, hi, my name is Riley with Riley Presents. I know it's been a while. Today we're trying something a little different. Today, I'm going to be doing two videos. The first is what you can see on screen here, Game Awards stats, as the nominations are tomorrow. Uh, and the second video will be my predictions for the nominees, or at least for some of the categories. So I wanted to do this video first to sort of describe my thought process. And some of this might not be important, some of it might be sort of just whatever, but it's good information, at least for me, just to sort of think things through as we go over this. I do love awards ceremonies, even if they are kind of pointless. It's just for the hell of it, trying to just having fun playing the games and seeing the things that you like win shit is always cool. So the winner stats are split up. There's ironclad. There's stats that are almost perfect. There's stats that have flaws. Stats that don't help. And then every single GOTY nominee with their respective highest Metacritic scores. So for starters, the ironclad stats. So in the era of the director category, every GOTY winner was nominated for director. So this means that if you want your game to win, you have to be in director. Something like Resident Evil Village, or really any of the Resident Evils that aren't 2 remake, I guess. So something like Astrobot, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor are going to get director. And something like Silent Hill, if that gets in, probably won't get director. Just you know, for future's sake, every GOTY winner has a genre type category nomination and a genre type category win. So this might be confusing, but basically what this means is uh genre type is like action game, action adventure, RPG, fighting, racing, sim strategy, family, multiplayer. All of these are genre types, and basically every GOTY winner was nominated and won a genre type. So when I think about last year with Baldur's Gate winning, that didn't win director, that didn't win narrative, that looked like, hey, maybe it has a shot to lose, but I never had a doubt because the competition, Alan Wake, didn't win action adventure. So even though it won director and narrative, it never really stood a chance in my mind of beating it, just because you have to win the A genre type. And sometimes that's all that you win. Sekiro only won action adventure before winning Game of the Year. Dragon Age Inquisition and The Witcher only won RPG. At least I'm pretty sure Witcher only won RPG. It Takes Two won multiplayer and family game, which are only genre types, and then winning Game of the Year. So it's very important. It's very important. Then every GOTY winner has an 89 or above on Metacritic. This basically says that you have to be an upper echelon game. Something like Helldivers 2, if it does get nominated tomorrow, won't win because it's at like an 82 or an 83. Not enough people truly love it for it to be a winning contender, which is why I think something like Astrobot, Final Fantasy, and Metaphor are really the only things we're looking out for the win. Because like Dragon Age is an 82. That's really low. Like, I don't think that's going to pull off an upset or Silent Hill or something like that. Every GOTY winner has a version of the game in the top 20 games of that given year on Metacritic. So this is kind of worded weirdly, but basically what this means is that the game that wins GOTY has to be in the top 20. Now, you might think, oh, well, Inquisition has an 89, but it wasn't in the top 20. But if you say, like, give a different version of it, or like get rid of the mobile games, then it is in the top 20. Now, I don't count the mobile games because there's never been a mobile game contender outside of Hearthstone, but that has a PC version. So I go with no mobile games. So every version has a top 20. If you do include mobile games, then it would be in the stats that are almost perfect because Inquisition got beat out. But I don't include mobile games. That's a personal thing. Stats that are almost perfect. So every GOTY winner has a minimum of 5 nominations. The only time this never happened was the first year with Inquisition, where nothing had more than 3. But outside of that, even in the very early days, like The Witcher got 6 nominations. Like, this is like, you have to be well rounded. You have to get some stuff. I look back at Resident Evil Village, which I thought was a contender, only got 4. It missed a director and stuff. So yeah, I do think 5 really is like a solid number. Sekiro had 5 as well. Every GOTY winner has come out in the first half of the year, which is January to June, which has happened 8 times. Now, again, the first time with Dragon Age Inquisition, it came out in November. So it came out a couple weeks later, nominations, a couple weeks later, the wins. That has not happened again. The closest is Baldur's Gate 3, which came out in August, or full release in August, I guess. And that still is, I think, enough time from August to release. I think stuff like October games never win. When you think about the Red Dead Redemption 2 race versus God of War, despite everyone thinking, God, Red Dead's gonna sweep, it just came out, everyone's thinking about it, blah, 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 blah. I think it helps with the nominations more than it does with the wins. Because they usually like to give it to the games that have had a longer lasting impact, that we know is still a good game by the end of the year, which is why I think they're like, yeah, we know it's good. We're going to give Red Dead some stuff, but I think God of War is going to win this. And then you have stuff like It Takes Two. Sure, Deathloop is winning a lot of stuff, but we know It Takes Two is a good game. Legend of Zelda really didn't have any competition with Breath of the Wild. Or when we think about Sekiro, like, yeah, Death Stranding, critics love it. It wins director. It's doing all this stuff, but Sekiro, we know is a good game. That came out in like February or March. Same with Elden Ring. Like, yeah, we know it's good. And it's lasted long, and people are still thinking about it, which I think does help with the wins. In the era of 3 tech awards, so score, sound, and art direction, or since the 2017 ceremony, every GOTY winner was nominated in one of them, which is 6 out of 7. So the only time this didn't happen was with It Takes Two, but that was majorly like genre types, director, narrative, GOTY. But everything else has gotten stuff. Last of Us Part 2 got all 3. Elden Ring, I believe, got all 3. I do think it got all 3. When we look at Baldur's Gate, that got score. Overwatch, I think, got score or sound. I could be wrong. It was one of those two. Yeah, Breath of the Wild got all 3. Like, if you are contending for the win, you get a tech nomination usually, which shows an overall love for the game as opposed to specific elements being loved and then the rest of it's kind of ignored. Again, it's a little bit different with It Takes Two, considering that was like a lower budget game, but still. Every GOTY winner has a 90 or above on Metacritic. This happened 8 out of 10 times. So when we jump from 89 to 90, two games drop off. Dragon Age Inquisition and It Takes Two. But otherwise, yeah, 89, 90 is a good range to be at in terms of winning potential. Since the category has been in effect, every GOTY winner was nominated for Player's Voice. So this was a category introduced the year of Sekiro's win at the Game Awards. That year, however, Sekiro was not nominated. However, every year since, the winner has been nominated. With Last of Us, It Takes Two, Elden Ring, and Baldur's Gate. And I say this because this helps sort of show people what the big contenders are. It doesn't mean you have to win, but being nominated in Player's Voice in the five, this shows where the love is for the games. Like, to be fair, like, even It Takes Two getting in, I think proves that a lot of people really loved the game and that, you know, it was in contention the whole time and people just weren't aware of it. Every GOTY winner was nominated for a tech award, including all years when not every technical prize existed. So again, the only one that didn't happen was Dragon Age Inquisition. Again, that is sort of an outlier. Every year after, these prizes and these not like stats sort of kick in where you can start mapping stuff out. But for Dragon Age Inquisition, because it was so new, so many things weren't in play yet, that I can understand why the stat. You might be thinking, why are we talking about the stats as well? But stats help in terms of 10 years worth of data is very good data. When we predict the Oscars, you have like 95 years, 96 years of predicting material, but you look at the past 10, 20 years and you look at the precursors and you look at the patterns and you can sort of get right on the money with what usually, to be fair, we've kind of known the contenders, but the stats this year really have me. I'll get to it later, but the stats really help with the predictions. And if you have like a prize pool or something, it's good to have. So stats that have flaws. So this is 55% to 79%. These aren't completely accurate, but with only 10 years of data, maybe they'll start filling out. So, for example, every GOTY winner wins director. This has only happened 5 of the 8 times that the category has existed. The 3 times that it hasn't happened, weirdly, have been an on and off scenario. So the first 3 years they win director, and people are like, yeah, let's go, let's do this. Then when Death Stranding wins director, everyone's like, man, I guess that's winning, but it didn't. Sekiro wins. Then we go back to the director winner being the GOTY winner as well with The Last of Us Part 2. And then it stopped again. When Deathloop wins director, it's like, oh, I guess it's winning GOTY. No, It Takes Two wins. Elden Ring correlated with both. And then Baldur's Gate. Even I was like, man, Baldur's Gate's sweeping. It's going to win director. It's going to tie for the most. And it didn't. It went to Alan Wake. I think what direction is as a category is different than the GOTY category. I think direction almost has a different vibe to it. I think direction really is more of like a critic's pick. That's sort of like even if this game is overall better, the direction here is stellar. So when we look at Alan Wake 2 and what that's juggling and the narrative and stuff, Of course, there's an obvious reason why Baldur's Gate would also win, but I think that's like a critic's pick. So Deathloop was a big critics player that year. Uh, for some reason, Death Stranding was a big critics player that year. But I think, yeah, you don't have to win, is what I'm saying. You have to be nominated, but you don't have to win. Every GOTY winner is nominated for an above the line category, which is narrative or performance. So, this kind of correlates. It depends on the game, of course. Baldur's Gate, uh, even Elden Ring got a narrative nomination. It Takes Two got a narrative nomination. Of course, The Last of Us was there. Uh, you had God of War nominated. You had The Witcher nominated. But again, Dragon Age was like, it was such a new year. It was just a new thing. You can sort of ignore that. Uh, Breath of the Wild didn't really have a narrative and it didn't really have performances, so that can be looked over. And same with Overwatch and Sekiro as well. Um, so the ones that don't, like, it's super obvious. Like, if you have a narrative and you win GOTY, you're going to be nominated in narrative, as opposed to like Elden Ring or something. Although that still got it. In an era of 3 tech awards, so score, sound, and art direction, or since the 2017 ceremony, every GOTY winner was nominated in all 3. So this has happened a few times. Elden Ring was nominated in all 3. The Last of Us was nominated in all 3. God of War was nominated in all 3, and so was Breath of the Wild. So it doesn't happen super often. 1 is better than all 3 in terms of predicting. But if you do get all 3, that means you're a very well loved game, and it's more obvious, I guess. Stats that don't help. Some things that people might be like, oh, well, maybe this is a thing. Well, maybe this is a thing. And then it's not a thing at all. So every GOTY winner, winning player's voice. Because it's so new, maybe this could become a thing. But currently, of only 5 years, there's only been one time that it correlated with Game of the Year, and that was last year with Baldur's Gate. Every GOTY winner wins sound design. That is not true. A lot of the texts don't, as you'll see, don't actually correlate all that often. The nominations show love, but the wins don't always really help that much in terms of predicting the winner. So the only time sound design won was Last of Us Part 2. The only time art direction won was Elden Ring. And in 10 years that they've had the score category, it hasn't correlated once. Now, of course, that can change, but I wouldn't assume, like, oh, well, score is such an important category. Let's assume that the winner is going to correlate. It doesn't, usually. And then finally, every GOTY winner won an above the line category. It's only happened twice with The Last of Us Part 2 and Baldur's Gate. I hope this was somewhat useful in terms of predicting the winners. So you might be thinking, well, how does this predict the nominees? And I think the nominees is more of a gut feeling, and there's always going to be crazy surprises. But I do look at these winner stats, and I sort of imagine what games fit into these categories and what they end up like going towards in terms of the wins to sort of help predict like retroactively. So we will get to that in the next video. Hopefully this was somewhat entertaining. But yeah, thank you for listening, and yeah, toodles.